Hello and welcome once again to episode 60 of Code Completion. We are a group of iOS developers and educators hoping to share what we love most about development, Apple technology, and completing your code. My name is Dimitri and I'll be your host once again for this episode, and I'm joined today by my fellow completionists, Spencer.
Hey there.
And Fernando.
Hello, hello.
So before we get into our main topic, it's time once again for our Indie App Spotlight. Today we are checking out DropDMG by Michael Tsai, a Mac app for making DMGs. Have you ever wondered how the DMGs that you get from downloading a new app get made? Well, DropDMG makes it easy to make a professional experience for the users of your app. With DropDMG, you can easily set a background image, alias to applications folder, license, code signing, and more. Set up templates and automate the process so final distribution of your app is as simple as dropping it on DropDMG. DropDMG is free to try and costs $24.99 to get the full license, so please be sure to support Michael by trying it out today. And if you are an indie developer, we want to hear from you. Please reach out to us on Twitter at CodeCompletion via DM so we can spotlight your app in the future. So for the past few years, you may have heard about the term NFT or non-fungible token and wondered what it was and if you're missing out or something, and we figured it would be great to do a deep dive on this so that we can determine if you are missing out or not. So first of all, Fernando, what is an NFT? Something about a fungus, right?
Who knows?
That's all I got from the name.
Yeah, I don't know. It's something, and it's worth something, and then money. I don't know. What even is money? Like, do we have time to discuss that?
Brought to you by the experts of code completion.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's brilliant. No, well, basically, an NFT is a non-fungible token. And if I had to explain that in like a sentence, it basically means that out of all the copies of something on the internet, a certain copy exists, and you can register that copy with someone, and that someone will acknowledge that that copy is yours. So, for example, it's well, I don't know about.
We'll get into those details later.
It is yours. Yeah, exactly.
The NFT itself is unique.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. So, for example, a famous case that's happening right now is Tarantino. He is selling screen caps of, I think, Pulp Fiction, or if it's not Pulp Fiction, of some other of his movies.
I think it's of the script of Pulp Fiction, if I
right.
remember
Is it the script? I thought it was like
I think it was
screen
the
caps.
script.
Well, definitely the
I
script.
don't know.
Yeah.
Why
He's
not the
selling
film?
something of his authorship as an NFT, meaning whoever pays him enough money gets recognition from him that that part of the script is theirs. But it's not the physical script, but a digital copy that exists on the internet. I've never understood that, but that's more or less what an NFT is. It's sort of like a ownership, a way to claim ownership.
Right?
Yep.
Right.
So NFTs, they're based on this thing called the blockchain, which I like to point out every single time that blockchains are mentioned, that Git is a blockchain. So if you're afraid of this concept of blockchains, you use it every day. Git. That's my 2 cents on blockchains.
So what do we want to know about blockchains?
So what is a blockchain?
Chain of blocks?
So what is a blockchain? Excellent segue, Fernando. So a blockchain is a chain of blocks, as the name implies. And the thing that makes it special is that every block kind of contains a signature of the block before it, and a signature of it as a whole. So that way it kind of has its place in line and it can't move from that point forward. It's immutable, and it is there. So further blocks will kind of chain onto the blockchain. And the difference between Git and a blockchain like Bitcoin is with Bitcoin, you have one chain. There's no like side branches or anything like that. And well, if you do have a side branch, then that is called a split and you have a different currency at that point. So you want to end up with a single like uninterrupted chain, and that's what Bitcoin is. And as you can imagine, with millions of people like doing transactions all at the same time, that gets complicated quickly to kind of get everything in order and everything be one at a time. But that's essentially what it is. So you use something called a cryptographic signature to make sure that a blockchain was authored by a specific person. And in the case of most cryptocurrencies, that is done with a private key. So that key generates the signature. That signature is placed on the chain and can be verified by anyone that it is legitimate. There's like fancier details of how like Bitcoin come about to begin with. But using that chain, you can essentially calculate everyone's tally of how many Bitcoin they have. And like that's the basics of cryptocurrency in a nutshell. NFTs, they work on the same blockchain, not Bitcoin's blockchain. They work on Ethereum's blockchain because Ethereum has a few additional features where you can attach other things to this blockchain. It doesn't have to be exchanges of the currency itself. You can put notes, you can put data, like whatever you want, basically. And one novel use of this is to put a non-fungible token, which is basically... It can be anything. In everyday use, though, it is a URL that you are kind of putting on there. And then you are signing saying, hey, this URL was given to this address, so this other person, and that transaction happened. And that transaction can happen in exchange for Ethereum, the currency, or not. Like it can be given for free. But one thing to know about these blockchains is because they need to be verified by essentially everyone else that's using the chain, you need to motivate them to want to verify like your transaction. You can't just put your transaction there and say like, please accept it. No one's going to be like, no, we don't have time for this. So what you have to do is you have to pay to put something on the chain. And this is motivation for others to verify it because they're going to use your payment basically to verify the transaction and say like, hey, this looks good, this looks good. And when enough people say, hey, this looks good, then it gets added to the chain. That's like the high level overview of how these things work.
Right. Yeah. And a big thing with the whole blockchain is that it can't be changed because it's been, like Dimitri said, it's being verified by so many people. It's sort of, you make sure that it's all good. And then once it's in the blockchain, it's unlike Git, it is immutable. You can't go back and, like rebase something or whatever, go back and edit any commits or anything. It is what it is. And so from there, that's how these NFTs work, where everyone is basically agreed that, yes, this is Fernando's picture of an egg or whatever it is. Right. So,
but then let me ask you guys a few questions. Let me play the audience here. Right. What is the purpose of the blockchain? Like, I understand that it's like one thing stacked on top of the other and it keeps a tally, but I can keep a tally on a centralized database, right? So what's the deal with the Bitcoin?
It's a source of truth that anyone can verify, because if you have one block of that chain, you can look up the previous block and the previous block and the previous block. And if you do that to the beginning of the chain, you know exactly what transactions have happened, which is like part of what made it complicated to keep up with Bitcoin. Is your computer had to essentially keep every transaction's history on it, right, to be able to do anything. And that quickly became something that everyday people can't do anymore because Bitcoin has grown and Ethereum as well. But like large companies like Coinbase can definitely keep track of this chain because they have enough resources to do so. And the irony is that although it started and it still is decentralized, it's quickly becoming centralized to the only people that can actually keep up with the flood of transactions, which I find super ironic. But that's how life works.
It's more or less like the internet, right?
Yeah, in the sense starts off being decentralized, and then eventually it becomes Google and Facebook.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's exactly, Dimitri mentioned it right there at the end there. The whole thing that you said was, you could go to a centralized location, but the whole point is that it's decentralized for the people. But like Dimitri said, not really anymore.
I agree. I will add that I think one of the central tenets of at least Bitcoin was the fact that you cannot double spend, right? Since Bitcoin is a digital asset, like it's like a copy of a JPEG or whatever, if we had a centralized ledger, it would be very easy to verify the ownership of a thing, right? I own this JPEG, I transferred it to Spencer. That's a transaction, it's centralized, anyone can look it up. But if you don't want to have it centralized because someone has too much power, well, the brilliancy of Bitcoin was that using the blockchain, basically having a series of transactions act as proof, then it is very, very difficult for someone to come in and say, well, Spencer gave it to me. Because in order for that person to come in and say, hey, I own this JPEG, they would need to provide proof of all the previous transactions that happened up until that point in time. Now, I think that's an interesting point because they could, just like Dimitri said, it's becoming so centralized that I think a few years ago there was a scare where like a block of miners, a group of miners, were nearing 51% stake in processing power. And what that would mean is that they could actually rewrite the story. And since the majority of people would accept it because they own the majority of the processing, then the whole concept goes out the window. So it's a really interesting, I think, even though we're going to probably thrash NFTs a little bit during the episode, I think the brilliancy of Bitcoin is that it provides uniqueness in a digital world where uniqueness is not a natural attribute. I think that's really amazing and incredible. And it's why blockchains and blockchain everything has just shut up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think for the time being, it's so much in its infancy right now. It's only a few years old, realistically speaking, where it's basically the Wild West. We don't really quite know how to deal with things. So I think blockchains and using that technology, at this point, every time I hear someone talk about a blockchain in general, it seems almost like a buzzword, where I think eventually we'll get to the point where like they are legitimately useful and they are maybe legitimately decentralized and there aren't as many sort of concerns as there are now, which I'm sure we'll get into. But in general, yeah, it's a cool idea. But right now I tend to kind of stay arm's length away from it for the most part.
It's just, I think that's a good segue to another section, which is that there's a certain comparison to Wallstreet Pre-Regulation, which was where you could do a bunch of you can still do a bunch of shady shit. But it used to be way worse. Like, for instance, I'm thinking there was a banana coin, right? That was a complete scam.
Oh, there's so many.
Yeah, there's a ton. Like, the issue is that you can actually just, since Bitcoin is open source, is it? Yeah, right?
I think so, yeah.
You can actually grab Bitcoin or Ethereum, I want to say.
Yeah, Ethereum for sure.
And modify it.
Exactly. You can grab the source code, modify it, and then boom, you have your own coin. And then with a little bit of polish and marketing and whatever, you can have people buying your coin. And then you can just dump all your coin and go live a really cool life in a country that doesn't extradite with the US. So
right, yeah,
that's the issue right now. Which
is people are doing rug pulls with like a Squid Game coin and
that one I know was 100% a scam.
Yeah, it was. If you looking at the whatever you call it, the graph, the chart, it's ridiculous how fast they pulled out and just left everyone in the dust.
Pump and dump. That's literally, it's illegal right now in Wall Street because I'm sure a ton of people lost their money. But it is still, I don't know if it's legal or not.
Well, and that's the thing, like we're still in the Wild West. It's so new that there is no like regulation where like I think it's sort of in a way goes against the whole concept of being decentralized. Right. But the problem is you get things like this. And so it's like this double-edged sword where, it's decentralized, but also you get all of the potential scams and, not everyone's going to be in the know and in deep enough to know that whatever the next, whatever Squid Game token or whatever it is a scam. And then they're putting in life savings, which people are doing, and then just getting crushed because they want to, the potential's there. The coin is up 80,000% or whatever, and it's like cool, but
Isn't Squid Game about a bunch of people who went in debt?
I don't know. I haven't seen it.
Oh, you haven't?
No.
It's okay. It's okay. But
Okay.
yeah, neither here nor there.
Anyway, but the whole thing is like they just, whoever those people were, just capitalized on the hype of Squid Game, probably just forked Ethereum super quick, slapped Squid token on it, made some assets, went to Fiverr, got some assets,
I
made
think
really
they
quickly.
start a game, right?
I don't know.
I'm
dude.
pretty sure they skinned some off the shelf a game. They linked that to the coin and then they let it out. It became viral and then boom,
Yeah. One thing to realize that everyone should keep in mind when dealing with cryptocurrencies and all that is, although they may be deregulated or not deregulated, although they may not be regulated, it is still legal to have run a scam or run a Ponzi scheme or do any of these things. Like, these are assets, regardless of if they are backed by dollars or not. They are still assets, and anytime anything is at play or bartered or in transaction, it can become a scam, and that can become illegal, especially in the United States. Case in point, you still need to pay taxes on any earnings you have with cryptocurrencies. Before the IRS had rules, you still had to pay taxes, meaning once the rules came out, you are liable for back taxes. That is just part of the game. Just keep in mind that anytime you're playing with an asset has value, and you need to pay taxes on that value. You need to not scam other people out of that value. You need to be a responsible person. And just because of the fact that a name is not attached to it, it's now just an address, doesn't mean it's anonymous. It's still all points to you. Especially when you trade money for it. Then it's
right.
extra pointing to you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I recently let Dimitri onto, and maybe Fernando, you watched the video as well, or the channel, but there's a channel on YouTube called CoffeeZilla, kind of a weird name, but he does a lot of going through exploitations and scams of influencers, but a lot of things are crypto related things, and so it's very interesting to see how often someone will do something like Dimitri is saying, where they'll have some scam, or for example, one that's super popular is influencers will promote some cryptocurrency on Twitter, right? They'll be tweeting about it maybe a couple times or whatever, and they're not disclosing that they're getting paid for that ad, which is basically illegal. They need to kind of disclose that to people.
Wouldn't.
And so, yeah, right. I know, shocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, because it's on a blockchain that they're getting paid with, Ethereum or something, as soon as you find their address, I mean, it's just this.
You see every transaction they've ever made.
Yeah, it's this unique identifier. Basically, it's garbage, but you can figure it out. People have, those same influencers tweeted that, I don't know, somehow
Elon Musk,
this
that's
guy.
all you need to say.
Yeah, this guy ends up finding whose address it is, and it's oh yeah, they got paid $250,000 in Ethereum to promote this cryptocurrency. It's in the that's the blockchain, baby. It doesn't lie. So that's the whole point. Is people are stupid about it. They don't know what they are getting into, and I'm no expert, but watching that channel has legitimately kind of educated me in how stupid it is and how you can easily get scammed. So honestly, really good channel. Definitely recommend a good old subscribe there.
And not to mention, this whole system, because it is decentralized, as everyone's hopes and dreams kind of wanted it to be, there's no takesy backsies. There's no way to get a refund. There's no way to collect insurance if things go wrong. Once you send out something, it's gone. It's no longer yours. It's no longer possible for you to get it. So Bitcoin has become the choice of like every scammer and like not just Bitcoin, any cryptocurrency has become the choice method of exchange for pretty much any nefarious purpose, which is unfortunate because like as cool of a technology as it could be, it is also now rife with scams, and that's just part of life. And that's super unfortunate.
I actually think that Bitcoin may have become like the most legit of cryptos because it is easier to scam using altcoins. So it's actually interesting that there
Costs
may
a lot
yet be
to move a Bitcoin nowadays. That's also probably why.
That's the issue, right?
You can't scam people for $500 if it costs $500 to do a Bitcoin transaction.
Yeah, or you can wait 3 years for the transaction to go through.
Yeah, that too.
And then the price has changed and blah blah blah. I think that's actually an interesting thing here, which is that there is a really interesting correlation between fiat money and Bitcoin. I don't know if you guys know what fiat means.
Real money.
Well, no. Fiat is actually, I see your point. Fiat is real money in the sense that it is backed by a government, right? But fiat means that it is not backed by anything tangible. Fiat means that a dollar is worth $1 because the government of the United States says that it's worth $1. It used to be that money was backed by actual assets like gold or silver or what have you. But nowadays, money is just a social construct. I love that word, social construct.
Well, the value of those assets was just as much a social construct. So I don't know.
That's my point. So Bitcoin is kind of like a social construct squared, a second derivative of social constructs, because Bitcoin by itself has no value. Really, when you would ask someone whether they want to be paid on Bitcoin or dollars, unless they're like a huge fanatic or have blind faith on Bitcoin, most people are going to say dollars, right? Sure. Or if they say Bitcoin, they're going to trade that for dollars. So Bitcoin is pegged to the dollar, and then the dollar is just made up money. So I just thought that was really funny when I realized, like, oh, really? Like, all of this is just, imagine we're playing Calvin ball with money. So that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like the perceived value, right? Like it's worth $50,000 because we have kind of agreed that it is.
Yep.
I guess.
Yep.
It's interesting.
It's what everyone will pay for it.
Yeah, I mean, when I was living in Argentina,
Sorry.
Honestly, no, you're good. When I was living in Argentina, honestly, like it was interesting to see how the Argentine peso fluctuated with like the value of the dollar. It was always tied with the value of the dollar. I'm sure it's probably like that in Mexico as well.
It's the same.
It's like the dollar is like the gold standard, which is ironic because again, it's monopoly. It's monopoly money basically. But yeah, I mean, we're all agreeing to it. But then with crypto, I guess we are agreeing to it squared.
Squared, right? Because nobody like all those shit coins. That's the industry term for or like
Dogecoin, basically, just like a joke, right? Like it's not really
right.
There's no real like purpose behind the coin other than to like have it exist.
I agree 100%. What I find amazing, I think this topic is such a. If I were a psychologist, I would already be writing things about like crypto, because like Dogecoin, like the one that you just mentioned, Dogecoin, for those of you that are unaware, is an altcoin. I think it's based on Ethereum, probably.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be Litecoin.
What?
It might be based off Litecoin.
Litecoin. No, you're right. It's Litecoin, and we can discuss proof of work versus proof of stake in a second, because I think that's also an important part of it. But the creator of the coin was just like, hey, this is just for shit and giggles, and he just started like giving Dogecoin, you could mine it, blah blah blah, and then we turned it serious as soon as money entered the game, right? Yeah. It was like, oh, ha ha ha, Dogecoin is really fun. This is the coin for the future, and then to the moon, baby. I want
Friggin'
them
Elon Musk
some-
gets on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just more and more. I think it all boils down for me to the capitalist system. If I can get more money to get out of the system, I will. And if that has to come at the price of me scamming you, well, unless there's a law, I'm so sorry.
So there's a name for that. It's called Ponzi scheme, and it is illegal. It's legitimately that where you need more money to continue to like get out of a system. So you scam others to get into the system, so that way you can get out, basically.
Well,
Sure.
like a Ponzi, yeah.
It's a sort of Ponzi scheme. The issue is that in a Ponzi scheme, there's someone that's benefiting directly, right?
Right. I mean, yeah, like someone in a Ponzi scheme, if they say, "Hey, give me $5 and I'll give you 10," you don't know what's going on in the background. I mean, that's a Ponzi scheme, right?
Whereas here, it's all out in the open. I guess the point that I was going to make, which I sort of like fumbled, was that it became like a religion where everything is out in the open. Like, there's no concealing the fact that the author of the coin just made it for shits and giggles. There's no concealing the fact that people are getting in because they want to get rich. So it's up to you to decide if you want to get in and gamble your life savings. And a lot of people did. So, and they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, for every, Dogecoin millionaire, and there are quite a few of them, there are many, many people who lost a ton of money, right?
Yep.
So, and Sesame agrees with me.
She does indeed. She needed to make her position known. One thing that I do want to bring up, so we talked a lot about the downsides of Bitcoin and blockchains as like a scamming methodology. But there are other like downsides to NFTs, our original topic, as well. So one of them is the actual thing on the blockchain is a URL, and that URL points to your JPEG, I guess, as people
On
like
Google
to
Drive.
Yep.
Yeah. So that URL can break at any moment in time. Like, yes, the URL itself may be eternally valid, but someone else might purchase that domain name, and then you end up with something that is no longer exactly what was originally pointed there. Or your URL is pointing to a website, which is, guess what, a centralized thing. And you are essentially purchasing something on their site for all intents and purposes. The resource that you bought, the JPEG in question, usually, it can have a signature, but that signature is not in the NFT because why put it there? That's extra work. So that's not part of it. So when you do purchase an NFT, you are essentially purchasing, for all intents and purposes, a piece of paper that doesn't even say what it is that you purchase. It's just saying, hey, ask Bob about it, and Bob will know. And if Bob dies, just like ask whoever Bob's successor is, basically whoever bought the domain name after them. And they will be able to tell you what you own or not own, or what you sold. So if you want to actually support artists, NFTs are not the way. They are a way of like transferring money for all intents and purposes. That's about the only like use that I have discerned from them. Just buy the art from the artist. You get an actual tangible thing. They mail it to you. It's amazing.
Well,
Oftentimes they'll sign it and they'll like number it, and then it's like 1 out of 50. Like, you own the first of that series that's been made, and like there's no substitute for that. I mean, that's what art is about. It's about the thing that comes out of it, not the bragging rights of who currently owns it. Not to mention,
what?
NFTs
What are you talking about?
basically just prop up the secondhand market, which I find super ironic because it's there to support the artists. Because the artist does not make any money after they sell their thing that they no longer own at that point. But they still retain the copyright too. So NFTs don't include copyright. Fun fact.
Well, they don't need to, but they could, right? That's the interesting part, because I think you brought up
if
some
in the URL you specified this includes copyright, but then that URL goes poof, then no more copyright.
That's fair. Totally. You brought up some really good points. One of which is an NFT is basically a piece of paper saying you own this, right?
Yeah.
That's all it is. So you could, like, in theory, Tarantino could be like, okay, this is an NFT of the script, put it up on auction, say he gets, like, I don't know, $1 million for it. And then, congratulations, Spencer123, you're the proud owner of this NFT that Tarantino says is yours.
Right.
I don't think there's anything preventing Tarantino from going to another NFT provider and doing the exact same process again.
Nothing.
Like copying the JPEG. Yeah.
Right? There's nothing about it. So
And
For that copy, right? It's
yes.
non-fungible for that copy. You
Yes.
make another one.
So
Great.
so just like Dimitri said, he could do 500 copies out of the same one if he wanted to. And each copy would have a legitimate owner, but they would not be unique in the sense that a painting is unique, right?
yeah, especially not a print, the original painting. There's only one.
Exactly. Yes. Like a physical painting that you put up on your wall. It doesn't happen as an NFT. An NFT
Right.
is just a certificate. Yeah, I think you just wrote it down. Sorry, but absolutely a certificate. That's all it is.
So an interesting kind of example is Ubisoft. I think it's Ubisoft or EA Games. I can't remember. One of the evil corporations in the gaming world. They're coming out with a game. I think it's a Rainbow Six game or something. Anyway, they're the first kind of gaming company to implement NFTs in their games, basically. And so what it is you've got like a skin, like a helmet, and it's like X out of 500 or something, and it will actually say like this is 120 or whatever, and you are the only one with that helmet that says 120 because it is literally an NFT of that thing. So they're copying the skin, they're just putting a different number on it, more or less, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And people have pointed out this is a bad thing that will happen to games, because anytime you add any value to an in-game resource, it becomes rife with people trying to game and monetize the system and make the game less fun for everyone else that's playing it, especially if it's like a massive multiplayer kind of thing, where a lot of people are all playing in the same space. Guess what? If you don't have money, then you can no longer compete and play that game, because the ones that do have money, they can game the system tremendously more than you can. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The second thing to keep in mind is that whatever you have becomes worthless the moment the game goes poof.
Yeah. I mean, one thing with that is they're saying, oh, it's going to be available in other games and stuff. But yes, essentially, it's just the same thing as like if the Google Drive link goes down or someone else buys the domain, effectively.
But that is also true of like gaming inventories before, right?
Sure. Yeah.
If you're working,
but you didn't own it in the same sense.
Yeah, we're talking about NFTs as a thing that people have spent millions of dollars on.
Right.
Like, if you're going to call it an NFT, then there's a perceived value to be associated with it.
And you directly own it, right? Like, that's a part of this whole transaction, is you actually own it, where it's not like an agreement of like, yeah, as soon as the game goes down, like whatever type of thing.
Mm-hmm. I'm desperately trying to find, there was a really interesting NFT. I think it's the Loot Project. Have you guys heard of it?
Nope.
Yeah.
While you're finding that, did you find it?
I think so. So the Loot Project is basically the second thing that I think Dimitri brought up that I completely disagree with is that art is all about bragging rights. Like
NFTs are all about bragging rights. I'm not saying art is.
No, I'm saying artists.
Yeah.
That's why we disagree, I think. You're saying like art has the perceived value of like being art because of whatever, right?
Because of it being physical and putting it on the wall.
Right. But I'm saying art is all about bragging rights. I think it's been about bragging rights for literally hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
So I think what that reminded me was this Loot Project, which this artist, I guess, I don't know if you can call him an artist. I think he's a legit artist where he like draws or produces art. But he thought about creating a loot box via NFT. and he had 8,000 loot boxes up for sale. And you may ask, well, what is a loot box? A loot box was, as far as I can tell, for items. And by items, I mean literal strings. Like you get a black sword, a white cape, a red leather armor. And so what I found really interesting, and I think that's a definite positive about NFTs, is that those loot boxes were just sentences. But he made a ton of money out of them, which is amazing for an artist. That's the third and last point where I disagreed about Dimitri's point. If an artist wants to make money, if they have enough of a following, they can absolutely do it via NFTs, like Tarantino or this loot box guy, which I think made millions and millions and millions of money just for putting out strings of text. Anyway, the point that I found really amazing about it was that since they were on the blockchain, people started building communities around these loot boxes. So for instance, if you had like a red leather armor, there were like 15 red leather armors. Well, let's get together whoever has red leather armors. And they started building communities. And other artists started selling NFTs of like drawings of your character, right? If you had these characteristics, I can give you a drawing that's also an NFT. And the power of NFTs is that they are, funnily enough, a centralized way of referring to ownership. And I think that's really, really cool and interesting because you get to play with a digital thing in several environments. People started saying, well, if you were like Epic, you could grab these loot boxes from Ethereum and put them as items on, what's it called? I just forgot the name. Fortnite, yes. And so if you own that loot box, you get to use it in Fortnite. So I think that's really, really cool. And that's, I think, the basis of the metaverse, where there is a shared understanding between citizens of the internet that you own things.
So I think that's less about being an artist, making money in that way, and more about being a celebrity. Because the vast majority of artists will not be Beeple. They will not be Quentin Tarantino. They will not be this particular person who did this thing. They will essentially lose money by ever attempting to put anything on an NFT because it costs money to make an NFT. Ironically enough, you think, oh, it's digital, it should be free. No, it costs $200 just because the price of Ethereum is like $5,000 now.
That's the blockchain, baby.
So to put it on the blockchain, you need to pay money. And to add insult to injury, many of these artists, of normal artists, many of those artists have their works stolen on the daily, and people make NFTs and sell them on their behalf without ever letting them know, because guess what? Anyone can make an NFT. I can take a picture of Spencer's beautiful face and pay $200 to put it on the blockchain, and that will be an NFT, and I can go ahead and sell it. Forever. Yep, it will be on there. I can sell it, and Spencer will never be none the wiser as to if it ever existed or not. Something really cool that DeviantArt does is they will scan NFTs to see if your art that you have on DeviantArt is being illegally sold, essentially.
That's really cool.
So that way you can try to do something about it. The problem is you can't do something about it many times because guess what? Once it's on the blockchain, it's on the blockchain. If it's being done by some site in Russia that does not care about your ownership rights in the United States or the rest of the world, then tough luck for you. I mean, that's all there is going to be to it. Someone's going to be selling your stuff without you having any part in that. And that's one of the biggest issues with NFTs as a thing. And I'm not even talking about like the environmental impacts, because that is an even bigger issue, but that is one shared by all cryptocurrencies. Whereas for NFTs, it's hard to say that this is something that is for artists when the only artists that make money off of it are celebrities who are not necessarily celebrities because of NFTs. I mean, people might be, but the vast majority of other people that are selling it are already celebrities. So they are just selling something and using their celebrity status to either make a pretty penny or turn around and say, oh, it wasn't for me, I'm going to donate this money. which oftentimes happens once it like gets a lot of publicity. I mean, Spencer, you posted a brilliant tweet the other day about something that anyone could do. You can mint an NFT, buy it with your life savings of Ethereum for $2 million, $2 million, whatever amount of Ethereum that is.
Yeah.
If you own that amount, you can do that. And guess what? Now that NFT is worth $2 million, which you can then sell at $200,000 to
And it's
some
a discount,
unlucky
right?
chump. Yeah, the price went from $2 million to $200,000. But guess what? You made that NFT. You sold it for $2 million to yourself, so you still have $2 million. And you're now selling something for $200,000 to some unlucky chump that thinks they're getting a deal. And now you own 220,000 or 2,200,000.
Yep.
Yeah, like it's a system that benefits itself more than it benefits others, and that as a whole is a problem that people often point out of centralized systems. Hey, like it's benefiting the people that are already the at the crown, right? The nobility of the space, and this is doing the same because yay capitalism.
Yay capitalism.
And that's what it ultimately boils down to, for me, honestly.
Yep. No, it's true. And I think a big thing is like with NFTs, I feel like they are the Wild West of the Wild West because they're even more new than cryptocurrency in general. So there's a lot to work out there. I don't have a good solution, but it's scary. Some of the stuff and I think a huge part of, sorry, I mean, all we're talking about are kind of the bad things here, but like another thing with that is a lot of people are pointing out that NFTs are sort of a good, I guess, more or less excuse of like laundering money, right?
Yeah.
You can say, oh, it's art, so I'm going to pay, 200,000 Ethereum or whatever, and boom, you've just like spent millions of dollars on something with value, and so you have sort of laundered that money through the blockchain.
Once
But
again,
I mean-
just because dollars don't change hands does not mean it's not illegal. So if anyone is
No, I
getting
know.
bright ideas from this, from all the evil ideas we've talked about today, just do remember it is still illegal, and guess
the
what? Your
blockchain
name is
kinda
attached
doesn't
to
lie.
every single bit of it, despite your name not being there. So it can definitely be traced back to you, and don't do illegal stuff, and you'll be a good citizen of this wonderful planet that we may or may not have in the future because of these cryptocurrencies.
So
Fernando, you look like you're going to say
No, I think the last piece, the last piece of work about. I'm kind of rambling. One thing that we haven't discussed, which goes hand in hand with Dimitri's "let's all be good citizens" thing, is the fact that, for instance, at least Bitcoin is built on top of a proof of work concept. And for those of you that don't know, proof of work just means that, like, if we had to go to the very beginning of Bitcoin, I think that would explain very easily what proof of work is and why that's bad for the environment. Basically, the easiest way I can summarize Bitcoin would be, let's say us three get together sit down at a table, and I go, okay, I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 10 million. Just give me numbers. And so Spencer tells me 15, Dimitri 20, and I go, nope. And then all of you start like writing down numbers, passing them to me and saying, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And by the end of the first guessing game, let's say the number is 10,974. One of you gives me the paper, and I say, yes, this is the number. Spencer, you get 25 Bitcoins. But during that whole exercise, we wasted an enormous amount of paper writing down all of our guesses, right? And so all of that paper just gets dumped in the trash and never to be seen again. The analogy is basically Bitcoin is your computer, when it's mining Bitcoin, it's just guessing. And guessing uses electricity. And so since Bitcoin has become so valuable, what usually happens is you get a bigger computer, bigger, faster, bigger and faster. And then a few years ago, they came up with the ASICs, which are basically hardware-specific machines that only do one thing, but they do it very well, which is mining Bitcoin. And guess what? That uses an enormous amount of electricity. So finally getting to the point, there are people which have enormous farms of ASICs just consuming electricity. I think we're up to what? Like, I think Bitcoin is consuming...
worth.
Yeah, I was going to say like
literally
Denmark, Finland, smaller but not small sized countries worth of electricity. And so if you put this on the internet, on like Twitter, you'll immediately get people like, but no, 90% of the electricity consumed by Bitcoins is solar powered or wind powered or whatever. And
you could use that solar power.
Yeah, that's
don't need to
besides
waste it
the
on
point.
Bitcoin.
That's besides like even if that were true, which I seriously doubt some of the numbers that I've seen.
Stop using the
Like,
solar power. We could use
why
that.
are we wasting all of this energy? It's like it doesn't even make sense. But that brings me to my question, which is I understand how proof of work works. I don't understand how proof of stake works because Bitcoin is different than other coins like Ethereum, which use a different algorithm. Is that algorithm better or?
So Ethereum is just as bad as Bitcoin, and basically all of them are. There's like one or two coins that use proof of stake. Ethereum is trying to switch to proof of stake.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Right.
Yeah. Spencer, I think you know the most from the three of us of what proof of stake is. Can you give us a short summary?
Yeah, and again, I don't know this really super well, but yeah, like Dimitri said, Ethereum's probably the number one sort of. I mean, it's sort of like, you know, the second largest cryptocurrency aside from Bitcoin, and yeah, they're trying to move to proof of stake, which is sort of this solution, quote unquote, to instead of you having to have an ASIC or computers with power hungry GPUs that are doing all of that computation. What you do is you stake some Ethereum into the blockchain somehow. So I think if I remember right, it's been a hot minute since I looked at this. You have to stake I think it's 32 Ethereum at the minimum to be able to sort of have a stake in this. And I think the whole thing with that is because you have put in Ethereum, you are sort of validated and you are able to sort of perform validations on the blockchain as opposed to you sitting there trying to mine things. As soon as a transaction comes in, you're sort of a vetted person that can say you can do that validation for a transaction or something.
So like
so
notary?
I think you get a
kind of.
I guess so, yeah. And so I think you just get
you give up your life savings. You have the ability to sign to basically say if transactions are valid or not. And you were incentivized into the system not collapsing while you were doing that because your 32 Ethereum are still there. They're still yours, but you can't access them while you are one of these people or something.
Interesting.
So, I mean, you are staking that 32 Ethereum, which right now, that's a lot of money.
65K or so?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know how much
anyway,
Ethereum's worth right now.
It's like
$4,000,
I think.
Oh wow!
There's 32. Yeah, $128,000. So that's a lot of money. Not anyone can become a staker, and I think they're trying to do like a pool, like they have with mining pools. To if you have less than that, you can stake less. Anyway, the whole thing is either way, it's going to take way less computational power to do that because, as far as I understand it, in a very simplified way, you're just waiting for someone to send a transaction and you validate it rather than you sitting there churning and trying to come up with numbers.
And so you get to absorb the commission.
I think, you take a part of the commission or all of it or whatever.
So you do benefit by doing this?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like Dimitri's ultimate point when he started was, what's the whole point of you validating those transactions? You get a cut.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a two-tiered system where you're like a lowly commoner and you want to send your transaction to a servant of the Ethereum.
Yeah, basically. But it's decentralized, Fernando. It's for the people.
Yeah.
Don't think of it like that.
The validators are random. So that's the decentralized nature of it.
Is it? But are they random?
I'm
Yeah. So
sure.
it's going to be completely random, like who validates what. But again, it's self-serving a bit because you get the ability
You
to
get
benefit
Ethereum.
from this
Yeah.
whole thing. So it's
Yeah.
a bit silly.
Yes.
The whole system is a bit silly, but like all monetary systems are a bit silly when you think about it. It's like,
They are.
credit cards. Oh, this seems so neat. I get cash back and all that. Guess who pays for that? The merchant. So it's just
Well, that's at least that's good for the consumer. So and
yeah.
for the
You
world,
think
I think
you think the
Visa-
interest that people pay like goes into these systems? No, that just goes straight into their pockets. Everything just comes straight from the merchant. So forgive your local donut shop for saying, hey, you need to pay a little extra if you want to use a credit card because like
Yeah.
they're running off of
Well,
basically nothing.
I think that's actually against the terms of service for Visa and MasterCard. I don't think you
It
can
is.
do that.
It is completely against the service, but you're not going to have a donut shop then. So thank you, Fernando.
But you just said in this very same episode to follow the law, Dimitri. Which is it?
That's
Donut
not the
shop
law. That
or
is a
lawlessness?
terms of service. It is a very different
It's
thing.
illegal, right?
No, it's not illegal to go against the terms of service.
You're breaching
This-
a contract.
This
You're
feels
breaching
very
a contract, but it's not a legal contract with the government. It is a legal contract with another company that they can then bring you to court to, and then it becomes a legal matter.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is like exactly what Epic v Apple is.
Yeah, it's a dissatisfaction between two parties, sure,
I
but
see
it
your
is not
point.
illegal.
Yeah, I see your point. Well, but are you a good citizen if you break your contracts?
You are if you support your local donut place, because otherwise you're not going to have a local donut place, and then the community is sadder as a result.
You heard it first here, folks. Let's break our contracts.
It's all for the local donut place.
I don't have a. You guys don't even have butchers. I
know.
told you a few
It's
months
true.
ago, like, oh, go.
We don't have them
Oh, we
anymore
don't have
because of credit card fees, Fernando.
That is a excellent point. An excellent point. Please support your donut shops. That reminds me of the that quote. First they came for the butchers, and I said nothing because I was a donut shop. Then they came for the donut shops.
I haven't heard of that one.
No, you haven't. It's
No.
it's a quote about I think Nazism.
Oh,
On that excellent note, this episode of Code Completion is brought to you by Pennant. Calling all sports fans. Want to keep track of the season, but there's so many teams and not enough time? Check out Pennant. Pennant provides sports standings at a glance. Pennant displays league standings as a simple bar chart where the best teams rise to the top throughout the season. Of course, you can dig in deeper with team stats, game results, and more. Version 10 introduced the all-new customizable My Pennant view, where you can build a wide selection of visualizations for any sport, division, or team. Unlock Pennant Premium to add as many blocks as you'd like and put any of them on your home screen as a widget. Whether you follow MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, or MLS, Pennant has you covered with more sports and leagues coming soon. Thank you so much to Pennant for sponsoring Code Completion. Download Pennant on the iOS App Store today. So now that we've gone through our topics, it's time for Complete the Code, where we quiz our listeners on your knowledge of Swift, Apple, and all things development. Spencer?
yes. So since Dimitri has been doing a poor job at his Twitter duties last week, we still have the same async await prompt, but that's okay. We'll forgive him. We like Dimitri here. So if you're listening to the podcast, you can check the podcast art or the show notes to follow along as always. So the prompt is, here we have an async method that loads a list of images one at a time from a list of IDs. How can you make all calls to load image run concurrently and return images in the same order?
So thank you, Spencer. If you think you can complete the code, tweet your answers to us with hashtag CompleteTheCode, all one word. You definitely don't need to wait for me to tweet about it first, but I will do my best to tweet about these more consistently going forward. I tend to forget because I don't want to do it the day that we release the episode. I want to do it the day after, and then I get swamped with work. So that's my excuse, and I will try to do better. The first to get it right will get a shout out on the following week's episode. So for our mini review corner, Spencer, you had a thing called a backbone controller.
Yes. So this is the backbone controller. It's a little controller that kind of pulls out and you can put your phone in it. It's pretty cool. It's an MFI controller made for iPhone or whatever. So it's like a Apple, I guess, what do you call this? An Apple.
They signed the NFT for it.
Yeah.
Neat.
It's like sanctioned by Apple, right? You know it's going to work with an iPhone.
I'm
is,
sold.
I guess what I'm trying to get at. Yeah.
Let's scratch this
no,
whole episode.
it's really cool though, because you've got, like, for example, the game that I've been playing with a controller that's really nice is Fantasian, the Apple Arcade game. So it's more of like a traditional game, and it's nice to not have to touch around and you just kind of hold it like a Nintendo Switch. So let me put it in. I'll kind of show you here. It's interestingly, they kind of got a little bit shafted with the iPhone 13 and 13 Pro and Pro Max, because the camera bump is so big that it actually hits this middle part. So they released a little 3D model that you can go ahead and 3D print if you have one, which I do, or you could just go to like a library or wherever is available, and then it doesn't bump. So it is basically kind of like the form factor of a Switch, more or less. And it's super cool. It's super comfortable. I think people will use it for playing PUBG or whatever on it. I don't play any of those games, but it's really comfortable, and it's nice to just kind of sit down and like hold your phone like a normal, like a Switch, just on your couch if you've got some game like that. It's got a pass-through headphone jack, so I guess that's a feature nowadays where we don't have the headphone jack anymore, and a lightning port so you could charge while you're playing. Yeah, it's super cool. I think it's pretty comfortable to use, and I don't use it a ton, but I got it on a deal. I think I paid $80 for it. I think it's normally like $100 or something. I know for Black Friday it was down to like $70. So it's interesting if you have any games like that you want to play. I don't, like I said, there are a ton of games I play that kind of support it, but it's a nice change to, instead of like tapping, if you've got a game that isn't like on your Switch or something. So I don't know if that really answers anything.
I think it's really neat that it has a lightning pass through rather than needing like a micro USB or something like that. Because then you can just use the same cable that you usually use for your phone, and just charge it that way. Does it have its own battery pack, or is it just powered off of the phone?
No, it's just powered off the phone, and I haven't really noticed any extra battery like drainage. I think it's pretty lightweight in that sense. But like good analog sticks, I don't know if you can kind of see this. They feel very similar to like the Nintendo Switch. It has got an L1, L2, and I think these are like analog as well. I don't think they're just like 0 and 1, but they've actually got levels of sensitivity. So, and it's got a pretty cool app where it's got a dedicated button. Sorry, I keep putting it down. It's got this little dedicated backbone button, so you can it'll just open up the app immediately, and it's kind of got like a launcher, right? And it'll scan all of the apps that you have installed, and you can just say,
Can they do that?
Control it. Huh?
Can they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Scan for apps?
Yeah, you check URL schemes.
No, that was patched a while ago.
Well, it works. Anyway, so you can kind of like control it here and go through all of the games, and this is like, the featured games, and it'll kick you to the App Store to download it and everything, and just kind of control all from the controller, so you don't have to touch around.
So it doesn't necessarily show you the games that you particularly have, just games on the App Store?
No, it'll show the games that you have as well.
Oh, okay. So it probably just checks one at a time to see, hey, do you have this game?
I think so.
And then show a check mark or not.
And
yeah, never mind.
I mean, it works. I don't know how it works.
I'm very curious.
And it's also it's got a button for like a quick screenshot as well, and also like starting a screen recording if you're into that. So it's cool. It's got some cool like social features that I don't use like that, and you can share your replays. It's got chat rooms and stuff. I think you can even like have that in the background and like have voice chat going, but I don't play any social games like that, so I don't, I haven't tested that out. But it's a super cool thing, and I think the kind of competitor to that is like a Razer product, but this one is really sturdy. It feels good, and check it out if you're if you're in the market. I don't know.
What's the biggest sized phone that you could use it with?
It'll support any iPhone.
And iPad?
No. I mean, like, it'll go
Well, it's lightning,
that much
so
farther. Yeah, and it's lightning.
Well, the minis are still lightning, right? Or
I don't think it would fit.
no,
in any.
they're USB-Cs now.
Really?
The newest
Yeah.
one is.
Cool. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah. So, but it'll work with any iPhone, with a lightning port. So, Max to iPhone Mini.
Super neat. I'm actually curious now because I really wanted to play Oceanhorn, which is available on Apple
Yeah.
Arcade. Because I like Zelda-like games, and that's basically a Zelda-like game without saying out loud that's a Zelda-like game. And it's best played with a controller, as is like very evident if you've ever tried playing it. So I will probably pick up one of these because I think that's super cool. In the past, I got these little suction cup things that you can kind of put on the iPad screen, and it gives you little joysticks. And I think we mentioned in a past episode there was a game called Geometry Wars. And that came out for the iPad a long time ago. And my claim to fame is I got number 2 on one of the leaderboards. And I was like super proud of that.
Nice.
And my heart was beating at like 3 million miles per hour at the end of that session. But yeah, that's it's like really fun to play with joysticks with games like Who'da Thunk. That they'd have that nailed down so early on. Yep.
Yeah, and I've tried. You can now connect like an Xbox controller up to your phone, and that works fine. And they have
I don't
little
have any of
mounts
those.
that you can if you do.
If only
they
you could
have
do the
mounts that
Switch
you can-
controllers, right? Why can't you do those, Apple?
Because
don't
Nintendo.
know.
Cool.
Yeah, probably Nintendo.
But it's nice. Like if you're used to holding a Nintendo Switch, it feels very natural to hold it like that with the screen in the middle and stuff. So I really like it. Check it out.
Awesome.
Cool.
Called the Backbone 1, I think is what they call it, like specifically.
So with all that out of the way, it's time for Compiler Error, a segment where I get to test my fellow completionist knowledge about Swift, Apple, and all things development. Today we have a theme, and that theme is
Scams. Famous robberies of the past.
cryptocurrencies.
Oh, okay. So the same thing.
Yeah, basically. So today, as usual, I have 4 statements for you, all about cryptocurrencies, specific cryptocurrencies. So let's go through them one by one. So number 1, one of the first cryptocurrencies, Litecoin, was created in 2011 based on scrypt out of concern that GPU-based mining was too high a barrier to entry. Statement number 2, Zcash, founded by Zuko Wilcox, is the first open, permissionless financial system employing zero-knowledge security and employed a ceremony to generate the system's private key. Statement number 3, Titcoin was created in 2014 as the first cryptocurrency to be nominated for a major adult industry award and featured greatly improved transaction speeds over Bitcoin. And statement number 4, ICANN was an ill-fated cryptocurrency founded by Burger King in 2018 that could be earned by purchasing cheeseburgers, though most ended up lost since wallets containing the coin were printed on the wrappers themselves. So, Fernando, why don't you go first?
Okay, I think I'm actually feeling really comfortable with this one. I think.
Famous last words.
Yeah, exactly. Litecoin is definitely based on script. I do remember when it came out that it was very different because it wasn't GPU based. I mean, not that Bitcoin is GPU based anymore, but same thing. So I'm going to say 1 is right. Zcash, unless there's some tiny detail there that I'm missing, it is a financial system that is zero knowledge. I actually did a little bit of I did a presentation at a lunch and learn at previous work where I explained what a zero knowledge system is. We should chat about that because I know the topic. It's really, really, really cool and interesting. So I'm going to say that one is probably true. Titcoin, funnily enough, I read a list of not suitable for work coins while preparing for this episode. I don't remember if Titcoin was one of them, but I would not be surprised that it was. I gotta
Fernando,
go with
doing
number
the important
4.
research right before the episode.
What?
You know what sites he's visiting.
Well, of course. I mean, who doesn't love crypto porn websites? Anyway, I'm going to go with my gut feeling, obviously. And I'm going to say number 4. Burger King is not cool enough to use I can has as a trademark, as a thing. And I wouldn't put it past them putting like the wallets on the wrappers. But it just seems like I don't know. Number 4 just seems like it's not true.
An excellent choice. Spencer?
I am also going to go with number 4. I don't remember hearing anything about that. I mean, I guess I haven't really heard anything about like 3 of these. The only one I am fairly sure of is the Litecoin one. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'll go with 4.
An equally excellent choice. So let's go in reverse order since this is either a sweep or not a sweep. So starting with number 4, I Can Has was an ill-fated cryptocurrency founded by Burger King in 2018. So Fernando, you claim that Burger King is not cool enough to have a cryptocurrency. I have a question for you. Is Kodak cool enough to have a cryptocurrency?
Yes, because Kodak invented like the camera.
Kodak is way cooler.
So you are absolutely right, because this is 100% the compiler error. It is completely made up. I had a hard time making up cryptocurrencies because any acronym I looked up was a real currency. In fact, there is I Can Has Crypto, which talks all about cryptocurrency. So that was a very hard thing to do.
That's the funny thing. Like I 100% believe that there's an I Can Has Crypto. 100%. I would believe it in a second, but Burger King is not cool enough to do that.
Like my first idea was to go with SOS coin, a coin where you can put like your need for help on the blockchain, and that would be like a whole thing. SOS coin exists. There's not much I can invent at this point. Everything. Not a number coin exists. It's not a number. It's NAN, but it's like stands for something else. But like any little acronym I tried did not turn out to be anything. So I thought I'd make something up that's at least funny.
You could have put something like I don't know. Costa Rica has gone all in on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that is not true. It would have been...
It's Ecuador. Ecuador went all in on Bitcoin. And you see lines of people at Bitcoin stations because guess what? Bitcoin takes 10 minutes to verify. Extra fun. So, yeah, let other people pay the energy costs of the currency you're using in wherever. But yeah, so Burger King did not make a cryptocurrency that I know of.
We did
Kodak
it,
did.
Sorry.
Finally. It's been so long.
Yeah. I don't even remember if we've ever had like a sweep out. What do you call them?
A sweep?
Yeah, a sweep.
Yeah.
Yeah, good job. But let's talk a little bit about these. So Titcoin is 100% real. That is on Wikipedia. That's just a thing. So moving on.
No, just to make a point clear, like I also went to Wikipedia. Not that there's anything wrong with porn, but that's not the first place that comes to mind while looking for
cryptocurrency. Right. Zcash is super cool because they actually did do like a whole ceremony to get the first one, and it was like publicly documented and everything, and they destroyed the computers afterwards. Fun stuff. Radiolab has an excellent episode on it if you want to dig into that. And Zcash is also like optionally privacy supporting, meaning you can anonymously give people money for scams. So I guess that's a cool thing. Do it in Zcash. Just not worth as much as Bitcoin, but whatever.
Right.
A little harder to convince someone to buy when you are doing gift card scams. Do they do gift card scams with cryptocurrencies? I'm not sure anymore.
I mean, why go for that when you can go for the moon?
Yeah. And then Litecoin is one of the very first cryptocurrencies. I think it's the second one after Bitcoin.
Too.
Dang.
So that is super cool that it's lasted this long.
And also that concern happened that long ago. Mm-hmm. Now look where we are.
Yeah. I mean, like it's still hard to buy GPUs because guess what? GPUs are excellent at mining cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
So yeah, good job, both of you.
Thanks.
I'm proud of you. You finally
We did
overcome
it.
the challenge together.
I think this is like my second win ever. So we're on like episode 60. That's embarrassing.
So as always, I want to personally thank everyone for listening in this week. Please be sure to follow us on Twitter at Code Completion to know when new episodes get released, and we will not be releasing NFTs for our episodes, so just listen to them. They're free. You don't need to own them. So if you have a topic that you'd like for us to dig into, please be sure to share it with us. We'd love to know what you want us to talk about. And most importantly, as a small podcast, please be sure to share this with your friends and family who are also interested in any part of the process of app development. It's your support that enables us to continue doing this, and we hope to grow a healthy community around everything we discuss. Once again, I want to give my thanks to Fernando, who is at From Junior to Senior, that's FROMJRTOSR on Twitter, and Spencer, who is at Spencer C. Curtis, that's SPENCERCCURTIS on Twitter, for joining me this week. My name once again is Dimitri. You can find me at Dimitri Bunil. That's DIMITRIBOUNIOL, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. So you still want to do a commented out or nah?
Yeah, let's do, but I can do like 10 minutes.
Okay.
Because I like, really, Michael Tsai, he's famous. And I've been in the community for like 12 years, maybe a little bit more. And he's been way longer, I think. But at this point, I'm too afraid to ask, why is he famous?
I know he's got like a blog. That's
I think it's mostly the blog. He has a very well-maintained blog where he collects interesting tidbits about various topics that are current. And my favorite part is that he updates those tidbits over time. So that way you see how like the conversation is changing or improving or getting worse for like a particular topic that started maybe a year ago. If you follow him at MJTSAI, MJTSAI on Twitter, he will post whenever he puts a new entry on the blog or whenever he updates an entry on the blog, and then you can just keep up with it and download that information into your brain. And you can support him by buying his apps because he makes apps on the Mac and they are cool apps.
Yeah, Tooth Fairy. Awesome. I don't use it much anymore now that I have AirPods, but when I had, I can't remember what I had before. Anyway, it was really nice to just be able to have a keyboard shortcut to connect to the Bluetooth headphones. So
nice.
Very nice.
Cool.
Yeah, we talked about spam sieve, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need the opposite of that where like you are doing something and then someone puts AirPods in and it does not steal your audio. Like, I know there's an option somewhere in there, but sometimes...
Yeah, there is an option.
Sometimes I'm, like, recording, and then my audio would just go out, and that's because Lynn put her AirPods in. And we, in the past, shared audio, like, from my phone. And apparently that links her AirPods up to my account, so they are in my, like, menus and stuff. So, like, sometimes my audio would just go out, and I'm, like, panicking because she just put in headphones in. But then she hears what I'm supposed to be hearing, so then she, like, quickly... freaks out too, and it's not a pleasant experience for anyone.
Really, this is perfect for commented out because I don't think we can do a whole episode of it. But the quality of Mac OS has, in general, Apple's OS has degraded dramatically. Like a few nights ago, I was like watching a YouTube video or something. I paused, went and did something else, left my phone, and then I came back and I wanted to press play, and then I didn't hear anything. I was like, that's weird. I started putting the volume up, and one of my HomePods just started going up in volume. And I'm like, what? I wasn't even like, I didn't even select, like, it's not, what are you doing? Why would you do that?
Siri's just listening to what you tell her, Fernando. Just because you're not addressing her directly, she will go ahead and do what you tell her.
It's very frustrating. And then yesterday I was playing with the music app, and I was just browsing a list, and then the panel that slides with the play buttons, it was just like coming up, disappearing while I was scrolling. I'm like, come on, this is like $1 trillion company. Can they please get software right? And I don't know. I don't want to get all nostalgic because I know like software has always been like kind of shitty, but I don't know. It's just frustrating.
What does that say about us?
Us?
Yes, as
software
people
developers.
who make software.
That's like literally our
Not
job.
us. They're not my bucks.
Thank you for throwing us under the bus,
Literally our
Fernando.
entire careers.
Yeah. We should.
Hey,
do
I just like to cause people pain. I don't know what you guys are in here for.
That's why I'm here, and it's masochist.
Yeah, I guess.
Pain
I'm the
point.
saddest here. I put my code out so other people can also suffer. So
Nice.
That's why you guys are so different. Okay, I see now. I understand.
Once you get to the 7-year mark, Spencer, you get induced into the pain cabal, and
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. I'm almost there. I've got a couple years.
I
Sweet.
never got an invitation to that. I feel left out.
no, you're a part of it. There's no.
I guess I got
denying
put on the blockchain.
Yeah.
There's no escaping.
You're
Someone
there
put me
somewhere.
there.
Cool.
Cool.
Okay.
I'm feeling like this
Bye.
episode's gonna go viral in the wrong kind of way.